Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Rage Against the Regime at Blog Talk Radio. To call in, dial 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. I was born in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. I'll bleed American blood until the end of my days. The red, white, and blue, these colors never fade. Rage against the regime.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Rage Against the Regime with KC Massey. We're going to be talking about the motions to suppress and the motions to dismiss. There were supplement motions that we filed this week in federal court against the unlawful and illegal charges against me. The government has found themselves in a kettle of fish, and, you know, it's become very evident that this was a setup. And now, because they expected for me to just be a fool and just take whatever they gave me, they've realized that they're wrong. And we're able to articulate and show this in the Constitution and in court documents. So there's no doubt as to the constitutionality or not. And we're going to go in further discussing that. I'm going to do something I don't typically do. I'm waiting on my co-host James to call back in, but I've got a hand up early on in the show, so I'm going to go ahead and bring them on. It's the last the last four numbers, are 6663. And I'm going to bring you on and see what you got to say.
Hey, Casey, it's Wilbur. I've been waiting all day for your show. Look forward to hearing it. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, sir. How about you?
I'm doing real good. I wrote 5 articles yesterday. I did write that article about you, and I talked to Becky this morning and everything, and I was very interested in finding out what happened to you in court. I've just gone through a little legal thing with myself and the CPS, which I won't divulge on the air because I know NSA is listening. But I know where you're. Oh yeah. I know where you're coming from. It was wacky. One day when I meet you over here, a cup of coffee, I'll tell you about it. You'll get a real kick out of it. I understand. No matter what kind of case you got going, no matter what you've got them nailed down on, I have seen these people wiggle and get out of things, and you sit there and scream to your blue in the face. You got a crooked judge, a crooked prosecutor, and all the cops are crooked, and there you sit, you know. So, anyway, my heart is with you. Go ahead.
Here's one of the things that I find as a relief. First off, I can truly say, and I can give pure and total thanks to God, because God has protected me through this whole ordeal. God was the one that put it on my heart to go to the border. By going to the border, I've met a bunch of great patriots, a bunch of great Christian people. The situation that I'm going through now, God has protected me through this whole deal. First, by the lawyer that I have now, because the original lawyer that I got, Edmund Saginowitz, was a sellout. And he had fully intended on selling me down the river. And that was his first words to me was, "You're guilty. You need to just go ahead and cop out. You know, all they got to do is prove that you were a felon, you had a gun, and it came through commerce." And I told him then, I was like, "Man, you got me bent and messed up. First off, the government doesn't have that authority. The Constitution does not give them that authority. And on its face, this is not going to work, and I'm not going to cop out." Well, as it was, because I kept pressuring Ed, because I wanted to challenge the jurisdiction, I wanted to challenge the constitutionality. And so he bowed out. Well, when he bowed out, the next lawyer that was in line to take my case just so happened to have a health issue. And so it skipped that person, and I was given Mr. Sorolla. And, man, I could not thank God enough for hooking me up with Louis Sorolla. I mean, the guy is an outstanding individual. He's a patriot. He's a former field artillery officer in the Army. I mean, the guy he's in law because of justice, not for money. I mean, the guy is a tireless, hard-working lawyer, and he cares about justice. So God put me in the right hands. And then, to top it off, out of all the judges that are in the Southern District, I just so happen to be sitting in front of probably the one with the biggest balls and the most constitutional of the entire group. So, I mean, it couldn't work any better for me. It's been going and doing just as it's needed to be. Is it in my time frame? No, it's not. You know, I wished it was already over. I wish this whole deal was done. But there's a reason why I'm going through what I'm going through, and I just have to let go, let God, and it's working, man. I mean, just my lawyers, man, I couldn't tell you how proud I am of the work and the effort that he's put into it. I mean, this guy has done his homework, and he's like, KC, it's so simple. I said, Lewis, I understand. The problem originally was he's used to, just like every other lawyer, they're used to the attorney thing that they teach them in law school, and that's go off case precedent, go off this, and a judicial opinion. I said, that's not what the law is. The law is the written law. And the words that are used in the written law have meaning. That's why they use those words. Well, as soon as that sunk in, man, Lewis, he got it. And he was like, man, this is screwed up. And he has gone to the ends of the earth to case study, case research. I mean, it is amazing. And now, hell, I think he can argue it better than I can. And I've been saying it all along, but
I'll tell you what, I went to. I won't go into the details. My case is already done. I ended it in 48 hours. It was a CPS case, and I won't go into all the details, but they would love to get me. They would really, really love to get me. They come out to the house with some trumped-up nonsense. My granddaughter likes to run away and go around the block and hide in the car. It's like 8-year-olds do. Here comes the CPS, and then they trumped up this idea of their head and everything, and I got psychiatric records and all this stuff and beat it. I meet with the lady, and I told her, I said, you didn't ask me for ID. She said, I know who you are. I said, I know you do. Said, let me explain something to you. I said, and I let me preface this and everything. I'm not a Mormon, but all of my ex-wife's family and I'm surrounded by Mormons, okay? And so I learned their culture and I studied their stuff. And actually, it's crazy, but I kind of admire Brigham Young. And he had one thing he said. He did something atrocious, and one of the Council of 12 told him that Brother Brigham vengeance is mindset to the Lord. Well, I told that caseworker, I said, I go by one motto that Brigham Young told that guy that day. He said, vengeance is mindset to the Lord. And he said, I'll go with that, but I do take a little myself.
Well, CPS is a Nazi group of people. I mean, they're just as bad as the EPA and the IRS. I mean, they feel like they are impugned from having to follow law, and it's the law according to CPS. And, you know, I've got a lady here, Deanna, in my hometown where CPS came to her house, flashed what they said was a warrant, wouldn't let her read it. They rushed into her house. She was 9 months pregnant. They bent her over a counter, handcuffed her, and then started punching her. Law enforcement did when she refused to give up and give her kid without seeing any papers. I mean, and then they tried to. Go ahead.
I have seen, Casey, like I said, this show's all about you. I won't dominate it with this, but I have seen.
No, this show is about us. I'm just the host.
Yeah, I have been in court and proved a caseworker has perjured herself and told the judge, I don't have to prove the perjury. All I have to do is show she told two different stories, and I just like to know which one she wants to go with. And prove my case, and the CPS workers say, all that having been said, we have reason to believe. We have reason to believe. I've got a technique I use at the door. like the poor lady that got beat up and everything, I need to see your warrant. They tell me, a CPS worker, I need to see your ID. I need to see your badge. I need to see your badge. Do you have a warrant? Well, I don't have to have my warrant because I was saying, no. Constitution, Fourth Amendment. Well, we don't have to go by that. No. Gates versus Texas, 2008. I think that one cost you $8 million. And let's don't bring up all those Mormons in San Angelo that took you to the cleaners. Go ahead, Casey.
Well, and that's the thing, here in Texas, you are not compelled to identify yourself. Texas Penal Code 3802 states that the only time you're compelled to give your identification is after arrest. If you are being detained as a suspect in a crime, that is also an arrest. It's a custodial arrest, and at that time you are required to provide your name. But unless they have a warrant or proof that you have done something wrong, reasonable, articulable cause, or that you are under arrest, you are not liable to tell them who you are. OCT, Open Carry Texas, they are a prime example of that. You go watch their videos and the cops approach them, I need to see your ID. No, sir, you don't. Do you suspect me of a crime? Do you have a warrant for my arrest of someone matching my description? And if they can't produce that, then they don't have to identify themselves. So, and, as far as CPS, she stopped them at the door. Deanna stopped them at the door. They kicked the door in, come in when she tried to close it. And they rushed in her house. They violated her home. And then commenced to assaulting her, at which point they filed charges on her for assaulting them when the video clearly shows who was the assaulter. And they did not show her a warrant. I mean, if you come to my house and try to do that, there's going to be some major problems that we're never going to be able to forget about because there's going to be irreversible damage done, and it's not going to be a war of words.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, that's one thing I've learned, excuse me, is the one thing that the CPS caseworkers are afraid of is wanton violence. I'll just put it blunt. When you realize you're going to stand there and we're going to kick your door in, okay, go ahead. Do you have a weapon? Yes, I do. And I know how to use it, and that cop doesn't mean a goddamn thing to me. You kick in my door and you try to hurt my grandkids, and we're going to have an issue, okay? We're going to have an issue right then. That's just not going to work. It's just, this has to stop. It's just, they come around me with their hat in their hands. This last one was the same way. The last two before her were the same way. Because I just tell them in a very soft voice, I don't play. You've got this little trump up.
In Texas, we have the right to use lethal force to defend ourselves against unlawful arrest. We have the absolute right to defend our property. So, the cops here had better start realizing that we, the people, are the ones with the power. The Constitution limits government, does not limit the right of the people. And I will, any day, be proud to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And you're not going to violate me, my family, or my rights without a severe repercussion occurring.
You can't. I've been fighting them for 5 years, and it's a constant attack. This thing this week was just one more thread in the cloak. It's a constant attack, constant. They come out in the schools. The shoes don't match. The haircuts aren't right. Little boy yelled in class. Little boy won't do what he's told. Little boy makes a failing grade. Little girl has a diabetic fallout. Just you name it. Here they come. And they're going, well, we understand that Carrie has had an anger problem in school and everything. We need to see your groceries. Okay, I can't connect those dots. So why do you have to go to my house and look at my watermelons? Because, Puck got a hold of you by the ears and told you where to go. Come on. Come on.
Well, and here's one thing a lot of people don't realize. And see, I've had CPS called on me. There was very spiteful individual who I will leave unnamed. But they were mad at me. So due to their anger toward me, they turned around and called CPS on me and reported that I was abusive to my children and to my wife. Hold on, I'm going to bring James on for just a second because he just checked in.
Good, sounds good. I'm here in the background.
All right. James, I'm talking,
hey.
but I just wanted to let you in. But anyway, so CPS contacted me, and they wanted to interview me. And I told them, look, I ain't got nothing to say to you. I'm not abusive. You can't prove that I'm abusive, and you can kiss my ass. Well, then they went to my kids' school, and they pulled my kids out of class, and they interviewed my kids, and they talked to the school staff. And the school told them, man, his children are very good kids. They're very studious. They're diligent. They're not troublemakers. They have no signs or indication of abuse. James, I think you got a background noise going.
Okay, I got it.
So, anyway, and then they contacted my wife, and then they wanted to come to my house. I told them it'd probably be a good idea for you not to come to my house because I'm not going to cooperate because I don't give a crap what some anonymous jerk-off called and told you. You have no probable cause, and you will not be welcome on my property. And after they interviewed my kids, talked to the school, talked to my wife, they left the investigation alone. They closed the investigation.
And what they did, they went, the allegation this time, like I said, Puck, my little granddaughter, she gets into it with my wife. You know, she's sitting there arguing and everything. She gets mad, takes out the front door. We weren't looking, and she runs a block away and hides under a car. Watches everybody drive by and everything. Eventually got her back. Well, the police got involved. And here comes CPS, and we met them at the door. I sat down, and I told them, just like I told you, I always try to start out being civil. What we got here is we got a girl who's under psychiatric care. She's been under psychiatric care for 5 years. Dr. Kyle Murrow's chief child psychology at Scott and White. And I can't name all the social disorders she has, but she got them. She was abused when she was 2 years old. That's why we got them. And he can fill you in on that. Okay, but and then I went to the back porch to smoke a cigar. I thought no more about it. My ex-wife was talking to her, and here comes my grandson, Bobby. He's 7. And he says, I said, did CPS come see you at school today? Uh-huh. What did he say to you? They asked me about my PP. The what?
Oh, man.
The what? And what did they ask you? They asked me if anybody was playing with my PP. Oh, okay. So it's time to go back to the front porch. I went back. I sat down with this big lesbian, and I said, you see my grandson Bobby at school today? Oh, yes, he's a delightful child and everything. Why don't we ask him about his PP? It's a standard list of questions and everything. No. You don't ask a 7-year-old child sexual questions. Well, we're authorized. I don't want to hear about your authorization. I don't want to hear about your rights. I don't want to hear about your 21 days of training. You don't go to school and ask my grandson about his pee-pee. Okay? That's not the way it's going to work. It's just not the way it's going to work. Then they had to ask Carrie or talk about her pee-pee, and they asked me maybe about his. We had a pee-pee discussion. So we had to go up to Scott and White and meet with Dr. Burrow, who gave us a nice big long letter explaining to the CPS that they need to leave the pee-pees alone. That he has a situation under control, and that there's nothing wrong here, and that Carrie is under medication for this and that and all this. And we were waiting, and she actually said, well, you are citizens of Utah. I said, well, the children are. I'm not. I'm a citizen of Texas. Well, when are you going back to Utah? I said, well, as a matter of fact, my husband-in-law, my wife's husband, ex-wife's husband, Joe, is dying. And we're probably going to have to get him up to Salt Lake City to a hospice center up there. We're going to go to, or they're going to go to. I've got to stay here. Well, that would be good, because if we can do that, we can just drop the case. Well, why don't you just drop the case right now? And then I basically told her, so look, here's the way it works. I didn't know who I am. I get very angry when I see a young mother lose her child to you people. It really upsets me. It really does. I go and buy a bottle of Jim Beam and I get real mad. If you take off after me, I'm going to turn on you like a wild dog, okay? I'm going to take you out. I'm going to cost you your job. Then I'm going to go after your kids, and then I'm going to go after your pets. And I'll do that because I'm crazy, because I hate how you people act. I really do. Well, they're starting to maneuver now. They're going to drop the case, and the kids still have to go to Utah, and it has nothing to do with the case. It has everything to do with they got to be up there when Joe goes to hospice and everything. But you're right, Casey, they're just Nazis. But the original premise is what I was saying was basically you have to be a Nazi back. You just have to, okay, I always tell them I'm just playing by the rules you set. I'm just playing by the rules you set. And we have one, well, heck, I'll go ahead and tell a couple million people this. It might be good. One case deal we had about 4 years ago, we had an investigator. I won't name her either. But in our little tooling around, we found out that she had this little crack problem. It's like smoked crack, you know. And we figured out real quick, as long as she never ran out of supply, we'd get anything we want. So we had all their files within about 2 weeks. Even their lunch notes, everything. That's how corrupt these people really are. That's how bad they really are.
I fully understand. And see, but part of our problem, and one of the problems with America, is we have done what Benjamin Franklin warned us against. Those who would give up their liberty for security deserve neither. And we've become slothful and lazy, and we depend on everybody else to take care of our business for us. And myself, you know, I've got a sign in my front yard that's hung there for years. I do not dial 911. And I don't call the cops. I don't need the cops. If you come to my property and you defile my property, you steal from me, I have video surveillance 360 around my house. So I'm going to know who you are, and I'm going to come find you, and I'm going to deal with you on an intimate level. We're going to get to know each other really well for at least 30 minutes or an hour. And you will be thoroughly convinced after our meeting that I was the wrong person and that you are going to be severely apologetic for having ever contemplated or thought about victimizing me. I don't need someone else to provide my security. And the same goes for my family. You know, what kills me today is they want to be so quick to define child abuse. Like there's the parents that they call their kids the free roamers. Well, I'm 50 years old, okay? When I was a kid, the only rule that I had was be home for dinner or you go hungry. After dinner, then you can be gone until the sun comes down and the street lights come on. You better be at home. And if I wasn't, then I was taught quickly why I'd better remember to be home by the time the sun went down. Now, if you let your kids out, that's child abuse. Now, if you let your kids experience life, you're considered a child abuser. You know, I shouldn't have to harbor my kids in my home and not allow them to experience the outside, the outdoors, climbing trees, going to parks, walking around, because I'm worried about some pervert. No, we need to get the perverts off the street and make sure that they don't come back. They need to suffer a grievous repercussion for their actions, because anybody that is mentally defective enough to be able to harm a child cannot be fixed, and they do not deserve a place in society.
No, well, you know, when I was, I've said this on Becky's show and on Raging Elephants, growing up in Shreveport, when you were about 7 years old, one of the rites of passage was you had to be able to get money from your mother, get on a trolley, go downtown to the Strand Theater, watch a movie, find your way all the way back, and get home. That was something you had to know how to do, because you had to know how to use the public transit, pay your bill, get your Coke, stuff like that. You know, man, the CPS would go nuts over that now. Nuts. And it was something, one day I got up, My mother told me, she said, I'm going to teach you something today, and she went with me the first time. She rode downtown. She took me to the movie. She brought me back. The next Saturday, she gave me $2, and I went and did it myself. My grandkids have gotten in trouble in my backyard for laughing too loud. The lady behind us called. They were laughing and hitting each other with sticks and playing. And I swear to God, here come a SWAT team, police officers, a fire truck, and an ambulance to the house because the kids were sword fighting with sticks. Oh my God! And as far as guns, I hear that the mothers are against everything but unprotected sex with a donkey all the time. Oh, the guns are dangerous and this and that. My grandfather had a shotgun that laid up against the wall all the time. We learned right off the bat, you don't touch the shotgun, you don't touch the stove, you don't pull the dog's tail. Stuff like you said, experience life.
And you don't be on a cotton picking electric fence.
No, you can't either. But another thing, what you were saying, Casey, you don't talk to strangers. It's simple as that. For any reason, you're running around the neighborhood and you're playing with your friends, and here comes a guy in the car. Oh, hey, I want to tell you something. Hey, you run to your mommy and daddy and say, he talked to me. He talked to me. And then you get a KC Massey on your ass, and that's the end of it. And at that point, I'll let you guys talk.
Yep. Well, and that's the truth. It has gotten so pathetic in our country. I can't even put words together to describe it. We keep relying and depending upon the police who are killing us. They treat every person as if they're a hardened criminal before they even know the facts. You can have some crazy, psychotic old lady that punches herself in the face and calls the cops, and when they come out there, they're going to sauce you and toss you like you had just raped a 3-year-old. Where is the common sense in law enforcement? Where is the common sense in our country anymore? It's gone away. And that's the problem. It's pathetic, man. But I was going to get into, we'll shift gears and go from CPS now and talk a little bit about the motions and stuff filed in my case. One of the things that I've said since day one about my case is that, number one, I'm not a criminal. Number two, I was not engaged in any form of commerce, which is commerce is a federally regulable activity. It was given that power because, like I've explained before in different shows, that the inland states could be held hostage by the coastal and border states. And so because of that, Congress recognized that and gave the federal government the authority through the Constitution to make sure that everything was on an even playing ground. And so, I've said from day one, I was not engaged in a criminal activity. I was not involved in a commerce activity. I was not on federal property. I had no reason for the federal government to come try to lay their hands on me. I was under Texas law, and under Texas law, I hadn't violated the law. Texas law says that if you've been convicted of a felony, it is a crime if you possess before the 5th anniversary of your discharge or release from custody, probation, community supervision, for you to have a weapon other than the premises at which you live. Live is where you are. Where you are at is where you are living. It doesn't say your residence, your domicile, your permanent house. It says live, where you live. And so by Texas law, I was fully and completely compliant. I lived on the border. I lived on the properties that we were patrolling. It was not unusual for us to spend the night in the woods, contrary to the assertions of the U.S. attorney, who says, it's obvious, you didn't live in the brush. Obviously, it's not obvious other than your ignorance, Mr. Hagen, because you are ill-informed and do not have facts. But that doesn't matter to the government. They don't need facts. They don't need truth. All they need is their propaganda and bullshit, and they say what they want to say. But here's the deal. First, that day of the shooting, they were they were highly in the wrong for the way they tried to treat us, because we were the victims at the time. My teammate was, quote, shot at by a federal Border Patrol agent unprovoked. My teammate was not involved in a criminal activity, and we were there at the request of another Border Patrol agent for assistance. We were watching their back. So the federal government was the criminal in the whole situation, and yet they tried to treat us like criminals. And so anyway, because they didn't, we've come to find out that it was a setup, almost assuredly, but because of the fact that, you know, they got overzealous and wanted to try to make a case to try to, you know, get us off the border and get us away. They didn't want to have to admit that we proved them wrong, that the border wasn't secure, that we had the power of arrest, and that we were trained and knew how to adequately stop illegal invasion despite not having their, quote, training. So they came after me, and they messed up. And here's the facts according to the supplement. I'm going to read the supplement to the motion to suppress illegally seized evidence and illegally obtained statements. Charges were addressed in the motion to suppress, the original motion, which is U.S. 922 G1. The facts. At this time, Defendant Massey asked the court to take judicial notice and review the testimony proffered at the hearing on the motion to suppress. The government agents did not obtain a warrant to search the defendant on August 29, 2014. Defendant Massey was not at any time suspected of committing a crime. Officer Cantu informed Massey that he was not free to leave the area. The detention of Massey was custodial, and any evidence or property seized by law enforcement was illegal. Contrary to the government's assertions, open carry of a rifle is not illegal in Texas and not a legal reason to stop or detain anybody. Number 4, Officer Cantu immediately upon shots being fired that knew that Massey was not suspect or a witness to the shooting. Number 5, witnesses cannot be detained and their property seized without articulable facts which led to the reasonable suspicion that a crime had been committed. Number 6, at no point in the testimony of any law enforcement witness were facts articulated that Defendant Massey violated any laws, state or federal. 7, at no time did any of the law enforcement officials fear for their safety from Defendant Massey according to their testimony. 8, the detention of Massey lasted approximately 3.5 hours, well beyond a, quote, Terry stop. 9, Agent Rotuno did not participate in the August 29, 2014 detention, and he relied on hearsay to secure the arrest warrant and subsequent search warrant for Massey and the premises at where he lived. Conclusion. Temporary warrantless detentions of individuals constitute seizures for Fourth Amendment purposes and must be justified by reasonable suspicion that illegal activity has or is taking place. Otherwise, evidence obtained through such detention may be excluded. United States versus Rodriguez, United States versus Benjamin. Heibel versus 6th Judicial District Court held that officers may sometimes compel individuals to give their name. Heibel states that the states may require suspects to disclose their names in the course of a valid Terry stop. What makes a Terry stop valid is reasonable suspicion, something that existed in Heibel but did not exist here. Heibel indeed relied on the quarter-century-old holding of Brown v. Texas that police may not detain pedestrians to obtain their identity without specific, objective facts establishing reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Police officers may not stop citizens minding their own business on a public street in the absence of reasonable suspicion that they have committed or about to commit a crime, Terry v. Ohio, and that they may not arrest them in the absence of probable cause that they have committed a crime, Henry v. USA. Unsuspicious pedestrians remain free to ignore the police and to go about their business, Illinois v. Wardlow. And refusal to cooperate without more does not furnish the minimal level of objective justification needed for the detention or seizure, Florida v. Bostic. All of this establishes that walking away from an officer does not create reasonable suspicion, U.S. v. Beauchamp, and also see Brown v. Texas. There is no question but the stopping of a vehicle and the detention of its occupants is a seizure within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment, United States v. Shabazz, citing Delaware v. Prowse. Searches and seizures of motorists suspected of criminal activity are analyzed under the framework established in Terry v. Ohio and Shabazz versus the U.S. versus Shabazz. An investigative vehicle stop is permissible under Terry only when the officer has reasonable suspicion supported by articulable facts that criminal activity may be afoot, United States v. Neufeld. An officer's mere hunch or unparticularized suspicion is not sufficient. Rather, a minimal level of objection, justification for the stop must be present, U.S. v. Sokolow. The government bears the burden of showing the reasonableness of a warrantless search or seizure, United States v. Chavez. It follows, therefore, that the stop and detention were unlawful. Under the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, all evidence derived from the exploitation of an illegal search or seizure must be suppressed, unless the government shows that there was a break in the chain of evidence sufficient to refute the inference that the evidence was a product of the Fourth Amendment violation, United States v. Rivas, citing Brown v. Illinois. Wherefore, Kevin Massey prays that the court enters an order suppressing the evidence and statements listed in the motion to suppress. Respectfully submitted and signed April 19th, 2015, Louis Cirola. What do you think about that, James?
Well, it like we were talking before the show, it begs a can of worms that I don't think they want to open up, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We haven't even got to
the constitutional dismiss part. That's just the suppression of evidence.
Yeah, but what they have done to you is what they have done to many others here in the recent past, the last 20 years, and got away with it. And got away with it handily because they didn't have the standing that you have right now. One, they weren't on a border. They weren't enforcing U.S. laws, or upholding them, rather. And it's just amazing how much they thought that they could keep on lying and get away with it. It's so blatant that they had been getting away with it for so long that they thought they could just keep on going with it. It's ridiculous.
Well, you know what it kind of reminds me of is, that's why I've never been a bully and I don't like bullies, because a bully, one of the worst mistakes you can make is to see that little bitty guy over in the corner and think that you're going to go roughnecking. And the next thing you know, he climbs you like a spider monkey and beats your head off your shoulders. And
exactly.
The thing about it is the government is a bunch of bullies. And so they thought that I was going to be some fold-up, easy dum-dum. Well, the thing that they failed to realize that I have worked very diligently and hard for the last 20-plus years to make amends for the mistakes that I made as a child and to show and prove through my actions that I am not the person that I used to be. And so now they're faced with the problem thinking, like they told Lewis, man, this was supposed to be a lay-down case. This wasn't supposed to go this way. And now they're realizing that, guess what? It is going to go this way because you picked the wrong guy. I'm not a criminal. I didn't have nefarious intent. I was doing my duty as an American patriot, as a citizen of the state of Texas, to defend my state and my fellow citizens. I went to Brownsville, Texas, and sacrificed my money, my time, my life, all for nothing, no pay, no reward. We did it because we thought it was the right thing to do to defend our fellow Texans, to defend our state from being invaded by foreign terrorists, and the federal government sits there and allows it to happen. I mean, you've seen with your own eyes how they allow it to happen. I've seen it. And it's ridiculous. And so they just thought that...
You need to point out, too, I heard today, Doc Green says, I'll interject this and let you continue. The man, ladies and gentlemen, that Casey was defending the property is the sole surviving member of his family. Everyone else has been killed by the cartels. And go on, Casey.
Yeah, well, his family has lived there on that property since the 40s. And, Rusty had to kill an illegal immigrant who broke in his house at 8 years old. This has been a very long-standing problem. And instead of the government doing something over the last 60 years to make it better, they have allowed it to become worse. And it's to the point, Rusty, we'll use as an example since you brought him up, he's had numerous animals slaughtered, killed, tortured, his property destroyed, stolen, absconded with. I mean, that man has spent the better part of the last 60 years being victimized by these illegals. And our government stole his property, and they forced him into, well, I say stole. They bought it. They bought the part of his property where they put the border fence, but they threatened to take it by eminent domain if he would not sell. And what he sold his land for, or what they made him sell it for, other people in the area got 3 times as much. And his family has been there for a long time. His father fought with Pancho Villa. I mean, the man has a long family history of patriots and patriotism. And, and victimization by these illegals. So he had every right to be defended. We had every right to look out for him and defend him. And I don't regret for 1 minute what I did. I don't regret being down there. My only regret is that my federal government showed their gratitude by trying to imprison me and turn me into a criminal or a terrorist by their words. Not by my deeds or actions, but by their words. And that is disgusting to me. And I still can't grasp that they would actually do that to an American. But they did. I'm here. I'm living proof.
It was a hard thing to not go to the border and do that once you've seen what the situation was. It was virtually impossible to turn your back on it. It, as a matter of fact, it was impossible for everybody that I know that was down there doing it to turn their back on it. When it was time for them to rotate out and go home, they hated it. They knew they needed to go home. They knew in their hearts that they were doing the right things, and being there was the right place to be. It was, and it still is. It's an absurdity that our government is perpetrating this fraud, this illegal invasion of our country. And they are footing the bill for the illegal invaders once they get here. They're giving them.
No, we're footing the bill.
We're footing the bill. We are. We the people are, because the federal government ain't got no money unless they get it out of our pocket.
That's right.
You know,
they're stealing from us to support an illegal and unlawful act of foreign terrorists. And I don't care how you want to define it. Terrorists are somebody who uses brute force and fear and intimidation to gain a means and gain control. And what does the cartel do? That's exactly what they are, is terrorists. They will cut your head off. They will kill your family. They will destroy your animals. They will do whatever is necessary to make you comply under fear. And then
what is the saying on the border? How do you want to be paid?
Yep.
Silver or lead?
Follow you pluma. Silver or lead?
Your choice. Rusty stood up today. He didn't want. He said, you know what? I don't want your silver. He never knuckled under. You know, and it took a toll on that man. It has taken a toll on that man.
Yeah, I still, man, Rusty's in my thoughts all the time, man. I really, you know, it's a horrible thought. You know, I applaud Rusty for having the integrity, as well as I do Fernando and, you know, Miss Taylor and those around there that did stand up and said, look, we're tired of this. Yes, we appreciate your help. You know, what I try to tell people, and, you know, some people are, you're full of crap. No, we were told, and you're a witness to this, we were told by law enforcement that the area in which we patrolled, we reduced crime 80%. And we were free. We weren't paid people. We were concerned citizens doing our job on the border, and we affected crime. We reduced the crime rate in the area by property crime by 80%. That's not an exaggeration. I'm not throwing some number out. That's what we were told by law enforcement. Am I correct, James?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was astonished. You got to be kidding me. You know, what we do here and just making a presence known and being there and not going to knuckle down and look the other way, and it drops it that much. Holy smokes. You know, how much easier would it be for the Border Patrol to be on the river? How much easier would it be for them to be detouring this stuff if they were allowed to do their job the way it was intended to be done? It wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be an issue. It would be a non-starter. You know, it'd be a moot subject. There wouldn't be a problem. Rusty would sit there and tell us about the times that the Border Patrol and the tick riders, they would, you know, they were on horseback and that, and they were actually on the river and that. He said it was so much quieter and so much better then because they weren't taking any credit. Oh yeah, they'd have to kick somebody's butt and throw them back across the river, but hey, the people on the other side of the river figured out, well, you don't go over there because you get your butt kicked. You know, they ain't going to lay down and let you do anything you want to with them. And that, and it's right back to what you were talking about earlier. It's that taking care of business personally. You know, I understand when you're outnumbered and everything else, and that, and you know, but
we were outnumbered,
different.
but we didn't let it stop us.
That wasn't going to
slow us down. We were even told by Border Patrol agents, which I have video of, which I will be releasing soon. Video of Border Patrol agents telling us how effective we were and how they appreciated our job and what we did, and that the problem was coming from D.C. up the chain, Houston and D.C.
Well, they had a mandate they were supposed to follow.
I never released those videos because I didn't want the Border Patrol agents to be in trouble. But, you know, it's gotten to the point where if you're going to sit here and continue to lie and try to villainize me, then I'm going to use your own agents to testify against you. You guys pick, and I know you're listening, Hagen, and maybe even you shitbag fag with Tuno. I hope you're listening. You're a lying sack of shit, and we've already proven it. your own testimony from your other federal agents have proved that you are untruthful and that you, Rotuno, Batfag, have used hearsay and an affidavit of fact against me. You've committed perjury, you scumbag, you dirtbag. And yeah, I'm pissed because you played with my life for the last 6 months over this. You have put me through the ringer when I didn't deserve it. You have lied about me. You have lied about my intent and what I was doing. And you know what? I've said many, many years, I stand in the light of truth, and the truth shall set me free. And it's coming true. It's taken a while, and the tide is turning. The truth is coming out. And as the truth comes out, it exonerates me and implicates them.
That's a fact. And it's going to come back down to every last person on their side that went into the commission of this crime against us, against you, against the citizens of Texas and of America, what they've done. It's going to come back on them. And I believe that God is going to see a way to find a way to have them prosecuted for their ill deeds, for their breaking their oaths, man, for their backstabbing, for their undercutting, for their two-faced, lying selves. They're going to pay this. I got a funny feeling they're going to pay for their stuff on this side of the veil and the other side. I hope that they have Christ in their heart, because it's the only way that they're going to get forgiveness from God for this.
Yeah, I agree. And, like my lawyer, he tries to tell me, look, man, it's not personal by Hagen, but I cannot seem to take it any other way, because Hagen has been made aware of facts in the case. He's been made aware of the contradictions in statements, the contradiction in testimony. He's fully aware of these circumstances, yet continues to press forward. So in my mind, there is no way he is not guilty of this conspiracy to try to implicate and imprison me, when they know for fact I did not violate the law, the letter of the law, the intent of the law, and all I did was an honorable thing in defending my fellow Texans and my state border. And so I do take it personal.
Yeah. Well, how can you not take it personal? All right, nothing personal, dude, but I'm going to jack with your life. I'm going to take everything that you hold dear, and I'm going to trash it. Nothing personal. No, dude.
Yeah, something you guys just said is something I want to jump into. When I fight the CPS or anybody else, I hear this stuff all the time. And, well, this is the part, but it's not the caseworker. No. I tell the caseworkers, no. I can't take the department down, but I'll take you down. This is now between me and you. Personal fight between me and you. And what I do to
You're the
you
front
is
man.
what I'm doing. That's right. You put up with it. You showed up to eat the donuts that morning, standing in the room with the pedophiles and the child rapists, and you agreed with it. And how many Nazis went to the gallows at Nuremberg for just nodding their heads and taking Hitler's money?
That's pathetic.
They didn't have a lack of wind chimes.
Nope. I'm gonna go into the motion to dismiss now, because this is the part that the government is going to do everything they can to squash. They do not want this to be made public. You people that are hearing this radio show, the people that listen to it in archive, you people are going to be ahead of the rest of the country, because I'm almost 100%, I'd say I'm 99.8% sure that this case is going to go away, because they do not want this heard in court. They do not want this to be on record. So all you guys listening, listen carefully and listen closely, because here is how Lewis was able to articulate and eviscerate the unconstitutional nature of 922. And this is the defendant Kevin Massey's first supplement to opposed motion to dismiss indictment. Defendant Massey, through his undersigned counsel, files this supplement to motion to dismiss the instant indictment and in support thereof avers as follows. The factual background. Defendant asked the court to consider the facts that were covered in the motion to dismiss document number 62 in this matter. Criminal complaint was based upon what is referred to as a possession of a firearm by an individual having been convicted of a felony. In fact, the affiant cites 18 U.S.C. 922 G1 with the pertinent phrase being to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. The word has, as opposed to the word had, was used in the statute. Has is a third-party, singular, present indicative verb, meaning active in the action just completed, where had is a past tense and participle of the verb have, meaning in a previous situation. So if one were the direct recipient, then the word has would be appropriate. However, if it were expansive, intended to include any firearm shipped in interstate commerce, then had would have been the proper verb. The use of had would have meant to include any and all that had been so transported at any time prior. Page 2. Oh, come on. My computer's not wanting to cooperate. Page 2. Indictment fails to meet statute. The only charges against Defendant Massey, according to the criminal indictment, are a violation of 18 U.S.C. 922 G1. The pertinent part is as follows. G, it shall be unlawful for any person, 1, who has been convicted in any court of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, to ship or transport in interstate or foreign commerce, or to possess in or affecting commerce any firearm or ammunition, or to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. First, it shall be unlawful. Defendant Massey has no problem with that portion of the statute. Next, if that person had been convicted in any court of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, defendant assumes for the sake of discussion that the criterion has been met. So let's move on to the third portion of the statute. It is unlawful to ship or transport in interstate or foreign commerce. Defendant Massey did not ship or transport, and he is not charged with shipping or transporting. The next phrase is rather interesting. It is unlawful to possess in or affecting commerce. Possess means to occupy in person, to have one's actual or physical control. So this must mean that you have to be in control of the firearm when you affect commerce. The possession must be done while participating in or affecting commerce. It is important to note that the government's references to cases cited do not address Defendant Massey's claim. The Fifth Circuit stated, Mitchell Daugherty appeals his conviction for violating 18 U.S.C. 922 G1 in 2001, which prohibits convicted felons from possessing firearms in and affecting interstate commerce. We affirm U.S. v. Daugherty. Nowhere does 18 U.S.C. 922 G1 prohibit convicted felons from possessing firearms in and affecting interstate commerce. The statute says possesses in or affecting commerce. John Darrington challenges the constitutionality of the felon in possession of 18 U.S.C. 922 G1 and U.S. v. Darrington. Again, the statute in Defendant Massey's case says possesses in or affecting commerce. The courts have read that statute to make it a possession in violation of interstate commerce statute. Records on U.S. v. Everest are sealed at the district court and appeal court levels, so Defendant Massey can only guess on the conclusions of this decision. And that was a case site that the government tried to use in their retort in their second motion to reject my motions. So they cited a case that can't even be accessed, which, you know, how can you cite a case that we can't even pull up to see what the conditions or the circumstances were? Finally, in 18 U.S. 922 G1, it is unlawful to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate commerce. Well, that last one surely must be the direct recipient, the addressee, in order to receive as opposed to possess. For that were the case, the statute would read, to possess any firearm or ammunition which had been shipped or transported in interstate commerce. The indictment facing Massey states, did knowingly possess in and affecting commerce a firearm. Then the indictment goes on to state, said firearm having been shipped in interstate commerce. Having means that which is had or possessed. The indictment does not match the language of the statute, did knowingly possess in and affecting commerce a firearm. Should not be read with said firearm having been shipped in interstate commerce, because the latter refers to receiving a firearm, not possessing a firearm. 18 U.S.C. 922 G1 states, possess in or affecting commerce. 18 U.S. 922 states that interstate or foreign commerce includes commerce between any place in a state and any place outside of that state or within the possession of I'm waiting on the page to roll up. The United States, including the Canal Zone or District of Columbia. But such term does not include commerce between places within the same state, but through any place outside of that state. United States Code, Chapter 44, firearms does not define commerce. 18 U.S. 927 states that no provision of this chapter shall be construed as indicating an intent on the part of Congress to occupy the field in which such provision operates to the exclusion of the law of any state on the same subject matter unless there is a direct and positive conflict between such provision and the law of the state so that the two cannot be reconciled or consistently stand together. 18 U.S. 922G states it is unlawful to possess in or affecting commerce. The statute makes it clear that the possession has to be in or affecting commerce. One would have to be involved in commerce or doing something that affected commerce to satisfy this provision. The relationship would have to be direct. In U.S. v. Lopez, the Supreme Court addressed commerce as being a commercial activity. Simply because the firearm was transported in commerce at some prior or subsequent date does not affect the person that possesses the firearm, totally unrelated to the commercial aspect of its transportation. As applied to Defendant Massey, the statute would be unconstitutional. Excuse me, because Congress could not impose such a restriction on commerce as it is applied specifically to Massey. Equal Protection Clause. If we consider the implications of Law 922G, If you live in a state that manufactures a firearm, then you can possess it, as it has not been involved in interstate commerce. However, if you have ammunition that was manufactured in another state, then you are guilty because of the ammunition. If you live in a state that manufactures both weapons and ammunition, you can possess those firearms and ammunition. However, if you live in a state that manufactures one, the other, or neither, then you may have but one or none. That seems to give preference to one state over another. Further, this absolutely defies excuse me, I'm going through oak pollen and got me all clogged up. Further, this absolutely defies the concept of equal justice. It would defy the concept of Article 4, Section 2, which states, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all of the privileges and immunities of the citizens of the several states. It would mean that if one moved to another state with what was legal from the federal standpoint, in that state from which he began, he would be a criminal in the other state. Wherefore, Massey is charged with possessing a firearm which he kept for self-defense and no other purpose, nefarious or otherwise. 18 U.S. 922G, a statute bearing only a tenuous relationship with interstate commerce power upon which it rests, purports to take away from Massey his right to bear arms in self-defense, a fundamental right guaranteed by the Second Amendment in violation of that amendment. The Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause and Due Process Clause equal protection component. Since 18 U.S.C. 922G is therefore unconstitutional, Massey asks that the court dismiss the instant indictment. Signed, April 19, 2015, respectfully submitted, Louis Sorolla. What do you think, James? Hello?
Hey, they're hung up on their own dangling participle, man. It has and had. On top of that, they have no standing because it's an unconstitutional law. You know, you can't be in one state and it be legal, move to another state, and because you move to another state, you become a criminal. They can't do that. That's crazy. The founding fathers saw that was crazy and made sure that it couldn't get done.
Absolutely. But see, it's the illusion or the delusion that the federal government has tried to throw upon us to take our rights through judicial action, judicial interpretation, and through the usurpation of the power of the people through these corrupt, for lack of a better word, maggots that are elected to our Congress, and for the corrupt judicial system to allow this perpetuation of the infringement upon our unalienable, creator-granted rights that cannot be removed and cannot be abated.
You know, that's the reason I defend the Constitution, is because the Constitution defends my rights. Yeah, the fraud that they have been perpetrating on us with this so-called felon in possession. How many guys are sitting in the joint right now that didn't have the opportunity to have an attorney like Lewis, that didn't have the opportunity to go in front of a judge like Judge Hanen? When you think about that,
and that's why I think
it's ridiculous.
They're opening a kettle of fish. Well, and that's why I have a strong suspicion that, first off, according to the wording of the indictment against me is faulty. The indictment against me has got to be thrown out because it is an illegal and unlawful indictment because of the words that they used and the misrepresentation of the statute presented to the grand jury. So without a doubt, they're going to have to throw this indictment out. Number two,
and they knowingly
they
misrepresented it to the grand jury. They knew
Absolutely.
what the truth was, and yet they wanted to perpetrate the lie.
Well, because they were hoping that I was too dumb to not catch it, and that my lawyer would be too dumb to not catch it. And, you know, Mr. Sorolla is a very intelligent man, and he's guided by God. So, you know, God has led us all to discover and research this and to bring this forward to us so that we can digest, understand, and then put it back out for others to see and understand. And,
I agree.
you know, I thank God for Lewis. I thank God for the hard work that he's done. He's done an awesome job. But now,
not only that, not only his hard work and his work ethic and his intelligence, but I mean, look at the backbone the guy's got. Look what he's standing up against. Look at the years of this being perpetrated on people, and he's going against that grain. He is going against what they want to be the norm. And he's going right back to what the law says and what the Constitution was intended for and how it was intended to be interpreted. And it's not up for interpretation. It's pretty damn plain. There's no interpretation to it.
Well, that's why our founders wrote it so clear and concise so that it couldn't be twisted and manipulated.
Absolutely.
And that's why they used such clear language, and it was so short and to the point, because they didn't want it to be manipulated. But like I stated earlier, you know, about Lewis is a United States Army veteran. He was a field artillery officer. He is a patriot, and he is interested in law from the aspect of justice. He's not in it for the money. And he's just the kind of lawyer that should be in the legal system, not these corrupt, usurping maggots that all they want to do is be cop-outs and play the way of the courts to reinterpret law that was written by the legislators. And like I said, I couldn't have gotten a better guy. And I'm thrilled eternally for, you know, God putting him in my life on this case. And
absolutely.
You know, just the man of his stature that he is the reason why this truth and stuff's going to be coming out. But like I said, back to the indictment. The indictment is a faulty indictment. They're going to have to drop this indictment against me. So then it becomes an issue of, do we re-indict? And if they re-indict, then they have to use the actual language in the statute when they try to get me re-indicted. Then they're still going to face the same suppression and motion to dismiss. And the government is not going to want that motion to dismiss to come out. We are the only people in every bit of research that we've done to be able to articulate the problem and the unconstitutionality of the statute. So judges by nature do not want to have to rule on constitutional issues, because then that opens up a whole other kettle of fish. So not only will Hanen not want him to have to rule on it, Hagen, I think Hagen, what he's going to do is either he's going to drop the indictment and choose to not re-indict me, or he's going to go ahead and play hard ass and try to re-indict me. But then we've still got the suppression, which he's going to want ruled the suppression. That way the case goes away. The last thing they're going to want to rule on is the constitutional motion to dismiss. Because if that law if it's brought up and Judge Hanen rules our way, and then it goes further up the chain because the government would want to appeal it because they wouldn't want that ruling to stand, and then it makes it to the Supreme Court and that law is ruled unconstitutional, how many people is that going to affect? How many people are falsely imprisoned under the lie of that law and under the jurist interpretation of that law, which judges and lawyers don't have the authority to interpret law. The law is written, and the words that are used are very important. That's why they use them. Lawmakers are very careful to use words to include and mean exactly what they want it to mean. I don't think, and this, hey, who am I? I'm just a stupid electrician, patriot. But I don't think that Judge Hanen or Hagen is going to want this to go on the constitutional argument. I think they're going to want it to go away and leave it alone. If they don't, then we will be more than obliged and are more than prepared to bring this mainstream media. And if they don't dismiss it, then they're going to have a lot of things to answer for, and it's going to be brought very public.
It's a conundrum. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, and they better just pack up their tent and go on back home and forget about it. Because if they don't, everything that they've done for the last, since 1939, and that is going to come back to bite them. And
because back then, and it was 34 when they originally started this, quote, gun control effort through the federal government, Congress, and I've read the congressional record, was very clear in understanding that they could not limit someone's rights to bear arms because that was a constitutionally protected action. So what they had to do originally was, since they couldn't tell you couldn't have it, they had to place a restriction on it because of your felon status, and at the time it was a $200 tax, which in today's time would be over $2,000. So how to relate that is, back then you could buy a gun for $50, but that $50 gun was going to cost you $250 if you wanted it. And that was meant as a deterrent, just like the way they did drugs. They couldn't outright outlaw drugs because people back then, what do you mean you're outlawing cocaine? We've been doing cocaine all our life and it was legal. Now all of a sudden you're saying it's not? So they did the same thing. They put it under the taxing authority, and they said it was for the public betterment. It was back when you had all the people that were going against alcohol and everything else, and it was where people gave up their personal liberty for security, and then they deserved neither. And so that's what it came down to, and then the government wound up turning the drug situation into a criminal situation. And now, look at what they've done to our American people. We have more people incarcerated over a drug, in my opinion, non-criminal, because for there to be a crime, there has to be a victim. That's called common law, and that's what our country was founded on. But see, now, through artful manipulation of language, you can be a criminal just because they say you're a criminal. Not because you victimized somebody, not because you've harmed somebody, but because somebody, some usurping legislative body, decides that it should be a crime. And that's why our country has got so far out of whack. They're able to make laws when there's no victims. And it's like speeding. It's like all the other laws that keep coming down. And the reason that they're allowed to keep doing it is because we got away from common law, which is what our country was founded on. That's why we need to get back to committees of safety, common law grand juries, common law courts. But there's no money for the judicial system in a common law court. That's why they don't like it.
Yeah, and it's all about the Benjamins, man. You see, I hate to say it, but when I see a motorcycle cop anymore in town, there's a revenuer. He's just out trying to make revenue, and God knows that I know in my heart that they're there to help people that when they get in trouble. They're there to If somebody's doing 65 in a school zone, oh yeah, they need to be stopped. And that, but when you get a ticket for going 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, and the base for any ticket now is $300, no matter what, how fast you were going. All it is revenue.
Well, but
that's all it is. It's just a money maker. Well, that's
in your pocket. Yesterday, I did a short article on this, but it was very poignant. I was running over to Valero, which is right in the neighborhood, to pick up some cigarettes, okay? And I saw a cop with a black guy up against a telephone pole who was walking near the school. Didn't think much of it. Then I saw him stopping somebody else, then somebody else. Pretty soon, and I live in an upscale neighborhood, pretty soon the word filtered out through the neighborhood that we had a predator in the area. And he was a very lonely cop after that. And we sure felt protected. We didn't feel like, oh, good, the police are here. They're patrolling our streets. No, he's setting up traps. He's collecting money, all this kind of stuff. And all these judges, ex-mayors, school teachers, everybody, we knew where he was at. And he was like a turd in a swimming pool.
Well, that's the way they
that ain't no payday bar floating there, Bubba.
Well, the thing about it is, and where I disagree with what you said, well, I understand what you said, James. You said that a guy doing 60 in a school zone deserves to be pulled over. I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because unless he harms a child or runs into another vehicle, he has not committed a crime because he's driving fast. Now, if he was to injure somebody or he was to hit another vehicle, then he should have to suffer a severe repercussion for his negligent actions. But until you create a victim, I don't believe in preventative crime measures. It's just like DWI. I don't drink alcohol. I haven't drank alcohol in many, many years. But to me, driving, quote, intoxicated, let me preface it by saying this. I knew a guy, and he's dead now, but that guy drank a gallon of vodka a day. So his first cup of vodka that morning would have made me so crap-faced drunk I couldn't have lasted the day. But I sat there one morning, I woke the guy up, and how he drank vodkas, he had a big gulp cup. He would pour it 3/4 of the way full of vodka and then pour Mellow Yellow on top of it. And the very first, I woke him up this one particular morning. Now, if you'd have told me that this happened, I'd have called you a liar, but I saw it with my own eyes. The guy poured a big gulp cup, 3/4 full with vodka, poured Mellow Yellow on top. He slammed it. I mean, slammed it like he was in Ethiopia thirsting to death. And I was like, holy shit, man. He poured another one exactly the same and chugged it. I mean, he drank it fast, not as fast as the first one, but almost. He made the third one. Now, he still had shakes at this point. He made the third one, and he drank it like you would a glass of iced tea on a hot summer day. And what I mean by that is he consumed that whole glass within 5 minutes. So now this is 3 big gulp cups full of vodka. And I'm like, holy shit. He poured the 4th one, and he started just drinking on it casually. By the time I left his house, and I was only there 2.5 hours, he was on his 5th glass of vodka, and he was coherent. He wasn't shaking. He was normal. But now, if you or I was to try to drink that much vodka, we'd have been under the table. So my point is, a breathalyzer does not always indicate someone's level of intoxication, because people who are heavy drinkers can drink more and not be affected. As somebody like me, I could drink 2 beers and I'm hammered because I don't drink. So going back to the DWI, to me, if you're driving, quote, drunk, and you don't harm anyone, there should not be a crime for you driving drunk. But now,
you see how fast I slipped down that slippery slope?
Yeah, but if you harm somebody, if you hit somebody, you kill somebody, you should be charged no different than walking up to an old lady with a 45 Magnum or a 44 Magnum and blowing her brains out. You should be treated the same way because you had reckless disregard for someone else's life and you cost them the injury. But see, that's where the courts want to play on this, because a lot of the politicians, they're drunks. My own sheriff is a drunk. His deputies are drunks. So if you're part of the good old boy crew and you get caught drunk, you can get a slap on the wrist and get obstruction of roadway. There shouldn't be any charge for driving that way. If you harm somebody, you should have to pay a severe penalty for affecting another unwilling participant. Preventing crime, they haven't stopped DWIs because they've got stronger DWI laws. There hasn't been a shortage of DWI-related accidents because of the DWI laws, but we put a whole lot more people in jail. We've made a whole lot more money for the court system, but it still has not changed the problem. Creating laws does not fix the problem.
No, that is exactly. KC, you hit it on. You know what I told you about going to the Valero for the cigarettes? It was in the neighborhood.
Well done.
I live on Pebble Drive. I drive down to Minthorne. I skip over to the high school about a half a block away. I circle the high school, and the Valero's right there. Okay? Now, we're all sitting out on the porch on a Friday night drinking beer. We got the beer in the cooler. There's a bottle in there. We run out of beer. All right, everybody says, let's take up a collection. We need another couple 12-packs. All right, I've gone through 6 or 8 beers, whatever. And fellas, I ain't going to lie to you, I can drink some whiskey. Just like, I'm not as bad as what Casey described, but I've been in Nashville. I've been in country music for 42 years. I drink Jim Beam straight, but I don't drink it like that, but I can drink it straight. But anyway, I get in my car after 6 or 8 beers, maybe a shot of Jim Beam, and I go less than a quarter of a mile through the neighborhood on residential streets and get stopped, okay? I blow DWI. Who have I harmed at 20 miles an hour? Who have I harmed?
Nobody.
What have I done? Yeah.
Nothing wrong. And like I said, especially in your situation, you said that you can drink 6 or 8 beers and some whiskey and you're not having a problem. If I drink 6 or 8 beers, I'm so far under the table, you got to sweep me into the house. So what level is fair to call somebody intoxicated?
Well, common sense. Like I said, my favorite drink, I don't do it very often anymore, but if I really get into a party mode and have people around, I drink straight Jim Beam with a beer chaser, and I don't chug it or anything. I sip the Jim Beam, and I'll take a sip of beer. Sip of Jim Beam, take a sip of beer. If I get up from my chair and I'm having difficulty walking, okay, there is enough of me left in me to know I'm not going to drive. It's as simple as that. If I grab my keys, I find the lock, I find the car, walk without stumbling, and I've got a limp. Walk without stumbling, get in the car, crank it up, check out my rearview mirrors and go around, I know I'm cool. But, any person with common sense, and in fact, it's almost a laugh, you get up and you sit right back down, not today, fellas. Somebody else going to take, because I will not drive when my motor systems are impaired. That's stupid. And that doesn't happen very often, but it does. If you're at a party and you got a bunch of people around and, you're all sitting there talking like we are here and drinking and everything, and you come up with that trip to the store and you stand up, and when you stand up, you go, not today. That's common sense. That's social responsibility,
Exactly.
That's being an adult.
Yeah, that's right. That doesn't mean you don't say stupid shit to the girls. All right. Articles, you have to apologize to the doctor the next morning, but you don't drive.
Exactly.
Well, like I said, though, that should not be a crime. If you harm somebody due to your decisions and your choices, then we should have to suffer a repercussion, a severe penalty. That's why I believe in public execution. I think one of the things that they did, and it hasn't deterred crime, and we're saying, oh, well, we have to be humane. No, bullshit. They weren't humane when they killed that old lady when they raped her. I say drag them out in the middle of the street, beat them, and hang them from a short rope. Let everybody see that when you do this to somebody, you're going to suffer the same repercussion. That's what our ancestors and our forefathers did. And guess what? They didn't have the crime because people, it's okay if I can kill you and then they sanitarily kill me. But if I kill you and they're going to publicly humiliate me, beat me, and then hang me in front of everybody, that is a deterrent bigger than anything. And by making everything so sanitary and clean, oh, well, we can't let them suffer when we kill them. Why? They didn't have that regard for the person they killed. Why do I have any feelings of sympathy toward them?
Yeah, there's no nice way to kill people. It's as simple as that. It's when and Casey, I'll tell you what, all this mumbo jumbo and we got to get the right drug and then we'll sell us this drug and okay, that's fine. The Mormons figured that out. They went right back to firing squads. Just right now, okay, that's no problem. We'll put a white dot on your left ventricle and we'll blow your heart out your back and you'll live for a half second. There you go. And in public hangings, the little known historical fact. The public hanging in the movie Hang 'em High was patterned after a hanging in Gatesville, Texas. There was a 6-man hanging in Gatesville, Texas, exactly the same way. People would show up with box lunches and barbecue and piss-warm beer, and they would bring their kids and say, this is what happens when you kill someone. This is what happens. And it's, okay, it's not nice. I'm sure sorry it happened like that and everything. But just like the song says, you ground up all them bad boys, you hang them right in the street for all the people to see. And then that protects the good people. That protects the good people. It protects the good people. That's just, it's ridiculous. I think hanging, and I'm a weird old bastard, but sometimes I'll get out here with a bottle of Jim Beam, and one of my favorite pastimes is to drink a few shots of Jim Beam and watch Iranian hangings. And sometimes they'll hang people for the wrong reason. I mean, they really do, But most of the time, it's the exact same scumbag that we have here. And what they do is they get a crane with an I-beam, and they put the rope around the neck, and they do what's called a suspension hanging. Where they just draw them up, and everybody screams, ah, la, la, and they kick, and they piss, and they shit, and then they're dead. And everybody knows
the rope dance.
You don't rape an 8-year-old little girl and go around laughing about it because we'll string you up.
And see, that's my point about hanging with a short rope, because the long rope, it snaps their neck and kills them instantly. That's why I said hang them from a short rope. And that goes back to what you're just saying, is that you die from a strangulation, and you're kicking and squirming, and you're slowly choking to death. Look, dude, if I got to kill you because you're so heinous that you have killed or raped a child or a woman or somebody else, I really don't care that you suffer on your way out. I don't care. You should have thought about that before you did what you did to that innocent person, to that person.
Besides that, why
you
waste
chose
an excellent opportunity to make a point? He chose to do that. He knew what the circumstances were for his actions when he got caught. So why should we be losing out on a perfect opportunity to show people what happens to you when you do that? We're wasting a perfectly good opportunity. For the legal system. Hell, they ought to sell tickets to the executions. That way they can make up for the money that they're trying to make up. Oh, I'd pay to go see these scumbags hung, and I'd videotape it and put it on YouTube.
I seen a guy today. I watched a video of a young man in the Dallas County Jail that shot 3 people, and he was telling the interviewer that he enjoyed doing it. Ain't nothing you can do to me, homie. Blah 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 blah. An article I did last week trying to explain about gun control. I was trying to explain that the moms for Gun Against America. I said, you don't understand criminals. You don't understand. And Casey's not a criminal. I'm talking about people who get arrested, go to prison, and that's just like a soldier going overseas to war. That's just part of the game. That's part of what they do. And then they come back and they do it again and again and again. It's just they don't understand the criminal mind. The criminal mind is they believe that the world is their oyster, and all they got to do is just walk in and just take a spoon and start eating. That's what they think. And the only thing that will stop them, and I don't mean these endless appeals. I mean, okay, you're found guilty, you got 30 days to appeal it and see we made some major mistake, and then you're going to walk out on those gallows, and that's the end of it, period. You know, that's your ass. Right? You know,
well, I
ridiculous.
believe that the courts should go back to err on the side of innocence. In other words, if there is a question of your guilt, there is no proof, ironclad proof that you did the crime you're being indicted for, charged for, then you should not be killed or executed. And some people say, well, then that lets them free to go do it again. Okay, well, then when they do it again, then we'll catch them then. You know, that gives the police motivation to do their damn job, to investigate because they want to get this predator off. But here's also, you come to my house and you try to rape my wife or hurt one of my kids, you're not going to have to worry about the court system because I'm going to kill you dead. And if people would become more involved, if I saw you raping my neighbor or my neighbor's wife or my neighbor's child, I would kill you dead. You don't have to go to court. I'm going to kill you. I saw what you did. You know, and people, that's vigilante justice. Well, it may be, but you know what? People will get the clue that, hey, man, we don't know who's watching, and if they catch me, they're going to kill me instantly. It'll be a hell of a deterrent. You know, you cannot be soft on criminals. You cannot have padded white gloves when you deal with somebody who has no regard, no respect for human life or human property. You can't do it. They don't care. The only thing they understand is brutality. And if you want to impress upon a criminal that you're not going to take it, then you have to have a brutal response. And if people don't want to be put in that position, don't commit the crime. Do not violate or infringe another human being.
Well, it's just like years ago, and I can't remember any details, many, many years ago, I read of a case, and I remember it was in Georgia. And a man, a great big guy, and he terrorized his town. I mean, I can't remember his crimes, but he terrorized this little town in Georgia. And one day, the doctor who delivered him walked out in the street, shot him in the head, and killed him. Just an open street, people there. Nobody could come up with a witness to the crime. Nobody. Everybody was looking the other way, didn't see anything. I wasn't here, I was over there, because society was tired of him. They were tired of him. You know, he had hurt little girls, he had hurt people, he had stolen. He'd fill up his gas tank and tell everybody to go suck it, you know, everything. And this doctor just had enough, and they could not find a witness to that crime. Could not find it. And that's exactly what Casey said, and that's what social responsibility. We don't need a cop parked over by a telephone pole waiting for some black man to walk on the wrong side of the street and thinking he might be thinking about doing something wrong. And God knows, don't run from that cop because you'll get shot in the back, you know. We need this, and it's something that I'm getting on a tangent here, but I'm just an old-time Texan. I think of things pretty simple and everything, but Scott Walker getting shot in the back like that day had a profound effect on me, a profound effect. I seen the film of him loping, Casey loping. Now, the man was so big and old he couldn't run. He was loping. Shot in the back like that. It's just gunned down and everything. And I've got black friends on the West Coast and everything, and I wrote them personal emails. I did not understand. I'm sorry. I really thought we all had an equal chance in this country. I thought that, y'all are just criminal. I did not understand. I do now. Because I've run from the cops. My son has run from the cops. How many people have run from the cops, just ran away? He attacked the officer, he struck him, and everything. Okay, he's a cop. Come on. That's a business.
Well, when I was a kid, and I grew up in Dallas, in the east part of Dallas, it was kind of like a rite of passage that you ran from the cops. And when I was young, man, I can't tell you how many times I ran from the cops. I've run from the cops in a vehicle. I've run from the cops on foot. And it was just the thing that you did. I mean, catch me if you can. And back then, when the cops caught you and they knew that you had ran from them, they whipped your ass. And you realize, hey, man, don't be running from the cops.
That's Chris. You seen that video with Chris Rock? How to get your ass kicked from the cops? He says, running from the cops. Says if the cops have to chase you down, they are going to bring an ass whooping with them.
Oh yes, and that's the way it used to be. But now you'd get some shitbag that ran from the cops, and they'd want to sue for beating them up. Well, you know, if you wasn't doing some crime, you probably wouldn't have got beat up. But I want to take a second to stand by here, guys. We got several people on the board, but we have one more person that just put their hand up. So I want to bring them in and see what they have to say. And they're on 4451. 4451. You're live.
Hey, KC, what's up?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm hearing some kind of contradictions going on here, though, you know? Because you're talking about if you see somebody raping your neighbor or you have somebody committing crimes against you like that, you're going to go ahead and shoot them, okay?
Absolutely,
I would. You're talking about running from the cops, okay? Now,
yep. And
does everyone who runs from the cops necessarily be guilty?
Not necessarily, but in my particular...
after running from the cops.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Necessarily be guilty. Did they actually deserve that beating?
Well, in my particular case, I was guilty. All right, like one time I ran from the cops because we were sitting at the end of the street smoking pot. And we all said, hey, if the cops show up, we're shagging ass. Well, as soon as the cops got in eyesight, I shagged ass. I ran from a cop one time because we were all sitting around drinking, and we were underage, and we weren't supposed to be drinking. So when the cop turned on the street, I shagged ass. Another time, I was wanted by the cops because I had committed a crime, and I saw the cops, and I shagged ass. I ran from the cops in a vehicle because I had an outstanding ticket, and so I ran to try to get home so that they couldn't arrest me. In my particular case, every time that I ran from the cops, I was wrong. I was a criminal, and if they'd have caught me, they'd have kicked my ass. So if you're not committing a crime, you typically would not run from the police. Now, with the way the police are, now the way they've turned into tyrants, they have created people who will run from them out of fear that they will be victimized by the people that are charged with protecting them. So there's a completely different circumstance.
Let's go one step back here. Let's step into the Wayback Machine, Casey, because you're saying now that the cops have become so criminal. Because
let me finish. Like I said, now, because of the fact that the police have changed the way they deal with people and the way they treat people, it's not the same. But when you run from the police, now you're automatically assumed to be guilty because typically people that used to run from the cops were guilty, myself included. Even though that was a, quote, rite of passage, people did that. And the rule was back then, it's fine, run today, but when I catch you, I'm kicking your ass. And that's what the cops did. That's how it worked.
Okay.
Now they want to shoot you. Now they want, look, can I please finish? Now they want to shoot you. They want to tase you. It's not like it used to be. So there's a huge difference in 1970, 1980 as compared to 2015. So there's no comparison.
No, let me ask you something, and then I'll drop out and listen. You're going to the store. You haven't done anything wrong. You're a nice lady. You're going to pick up some milk and eggs, and you go through an intersection, and you're got about a quarter of a mile to go, and a police officer pulls up in his car behind you about 10 feet from your car, following you for about 300 yards. Now, I want you to tell me honestly, do you feel protected? Do you have a warm glow? How do you feel?
No, of course I don't feel protected, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm not sure who I'm talking to, so I'm not going to use your name, but I'm going to tell you why. Because I grew up in New York City.
I'm Bill the Butcher. Go ahead.
Butcher?
My name is Wilbur Witt. I write under the name Bill the Butcher. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. And like before, Casey was like, let me finish, I'm not done. Well, as soon as he said to me that things had changed in 2015 from 1970, as far as I was concerned, he was done. Because that's a misstatement right there. Okay, because I lived in New York City, and I'm going to tell you something. Shit ain't changed except that people got cameras now, okay? They were still shooting your ass, and I'm going to tell you something. Most times they were the ones committing the crimes. You had witnessed it. They was going to run your ass down, so they're going to make sure you were going to talk about it, okay? Not for nothing, folks. It's the truth. It's the way it was. You didn't have to do a goddamn thing but be in the wrong place at the wrong time. While they were rolling
I guess that depends on where you're from, because where I was from and where I was raised is Texas. So I cannot speak as to what happened in New York. And if it goes back, the corruption level was that bad that long ago, then that's a problem that New York faces and was independent of Texas, because we did not have that issue back then. But now that widespread corruption has spread to the entire United States, even to rural America.
I don't disagree with you. And don't forget, I also lived in Woodstock, New York, growing up, and grew up on a mountaintop, and then moved into New York City in my 20s, okay? I've seen it all over. It wasn't just New York State either, okay? It was all over the friggin' place. It's just now that people are able to record it, that people are seeing it more, that it's coming out more. It was going on a long time, okay? And I know my own parents, my mother was a town constable, and I'm going to tell you there's a few times that she went ahead, and she was actually a good cop because she took down bad cops, okay? But I want to take it one step further. When you were talking about people committing crimes that you see, and you're going to get up and do something about it, and that's how you expect Americans to be. And I'm standing right with you, Casey. You know that all along the line, okay? My issue is this. We're seeing crimes committed against our people every day, and nobody's standing up, and it's our government doing it. And how come we ain't fucking firing on them goddamn bastards? Okay, really.
Well, somebody's
going to have to explain that shit to me.
I am standing up, so you can't include me in your hypothesis or your story.
No, you know I don't mean you. I just said that. You know I'm standing beside you.
But when you make that broad statement, it infers that you would be including me. I know personally you're not including me, but the people listening do not understand. So I'm clarifying that I have stood up. I do stand up. Just like I'm standing up for Deanna Joe in Hunt County, who was beat up by our sheriffs. I am doing what I can. I'm limited in my movement right now because of my persecution by the federal government. But I do stand with anybody that's victimized by anyone. I don't care if it's a criminal or a criminal cop. If you victimize another person, I have extreme prejudice toward you, period.
Good. And that's what I'm saying. All right, so let's go back and say, why isn't the rest of America getting the clue? Okay, do you know there's actually a law that states that you can shoot a cop if you're in fear for your life or you see a life that's in danger? Why aren't people doing the right damn thing? There are a lot of people carrying out there. Why aren't these crimes being stopped? Why is there a man sitting in jail right now for collecting rainwater? Somebody explain that shit to me.
Well, because we have lost our way. We have lost our way. We've lost our tie to God, and we've lost our tie to right and wrong. And therefore, we are suffering as a nation because of our godlessness and our lack of freedom, because we have become slothful, lazy, and we have given up our liberty in hopes of security. And Benjamin Franklin warned us that we deserve neither. Now, with that said, I need you to hold Dinah. I've got 2 more people that have put their hands up. I want to bring them on and let everybody try to get a chance to say something. 8115, you're on live.
Yeah, this is Ron. Ron Cobb.
Hey, Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm sitting here listening, and I can tell you hit the nail on the head when you said we took God out of the country, because I talked to 20, 21-year-old kids that's never even heard a Bible story in their life, and we didn't grow up like that. We have more morals and more issues. They don't have any kind of conscience. They don't have any kind of morals, and they don't have. There's no repercussions.
I know it. It's pathetic.
And that's why we got away with it. And people are so enslaved by care, and that's what it is. It's selfishness, where people don't care about their neighbor. If their neighbor's getting raped, they don't care. If their neighbor's getting robbed, they don't care. As long as it ain't happening to them, they're fine, because they are selfish, and that's what it comes down to.
I agree with you 100%, and I believe that's one of the things that has caused the fall of this nation. Ron, I don't mean to cut you short, brother, but I got another hand up. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say? I'm trying to get everybody on. I don't want anybody to feel that if they call and put their hand up that I can't get to them. So, I mean, I'll leave you on.
And this ain't the format that I wanted to talk about the border on. Go ahead, and then I'll talk to you.
And so everybody understands and knows who Mr. Cobb is. Mr. Cobb is a patriot that was at Camp Lone Star. He was attacked, and he was shot with a homemade cannon. He was hit in the ribs with a projectile that broke 6 of his ribs and ruptured his spleen. Spent approximately a week in the hospital. He's recovering. He's doing well. Ron, I appreciate you calling. You're a hell of an American. You did put your life on the line, and you did do what you felt was right. And I salute you and commend you, and I'm glad you're doing good. I appreciate you calling. I want to get to the next caller. Stay in touch, brother, and I'll stay in touch with you.
You got it.
Thank you. 6663.
Yeah, that's me. I got punched back in. I got disconnected. I just want to say, with Nina, one thing I want to say, number one, I love your accent. But other than that, another thing that really affected me was the man getting choked in New York for selling cigarettes individually. And the thing that got me, and Casey, if you've never been there, this is a typical New York attitude. All the people standing around watching as this man's yelling, I can't breathe. There seems to be a limit. I couldn't do that. I couldn't. I'll be honest, I'd have to knock that cop in the head. I just have to knock him in the head and take what comes. I could not watch a man be choked to death in the street while everybody stood around just being stupid. That's something I can't do. But that, like I was married to a girl in Long Island, and I've been in New York City, and that feels. And it's not just New York. It's a lot of us. A lot of cities are complacent. Don't get involved. Don't say anything. And Nina, it isn't just your people. I have heard of incidences in Austin where a female jogger from the University of Texas jaywalked, but she's listening to her iPod, and she got beat down by the police. And all the police chief said is, well, we didn't rape her. So it's not just you guys, it's us, and it's filtered down here.
And it's the sad shape that our country is devolved to, and it's going to take involvement and action by us, we the people, to reclaim our republic and to restore the constitutional law that is necessary. And with that, it's going to take individual responsibility. We're going to have to stand up for each other. We're going to have to love our neighbor. We're going to have to love each other and be there in support of each other. Back in the day, people that were truly in need, a family that, say, the father was hurt and he was unable to work. He didn't have to have welfare because the community surrounded them. The community made sure that the family was able to eat, that the family was clothed, that things were taken care of. But they took that away from us, and they tried to give it to the government to control. So now you have all these people that are fully capable of working and doing something, and they're getting free benefits for nothing. And that is another thing that has destroyed this country. When we take away our own self-governance and our own self-rule, our county government should be the strongest form of government because that's where we live. That's where we're able to communicate with each other on an intimate level. My county commissioners and my county officials, I can drive to their house and knock on their door and say, hey, jackwagon. Or I can go to their house and say, hey, sir, what a great job. But when they've taken that away from our local communities and sent it to Austin and then sent it to D.C., they've desensitized us and they've taken away our community responsibility to be there for each other. And that has caused grievous repercussions in our society. I agree, James, 100%. I'm going to let James have the last word. The show's just about up, time limit. I'm going to give James the last word. Wilbur, I appreciate you tonight coming on. Ron, Cobb, I appreciate you coming, brother. Dinah, I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate all you other listeners that are on the line that are listening, all you people online that are listening. I really, really thank you guys for helping to get the word out and to help people understand what's going on. Please, I beg you to be involved. Get involved with your community. Get involved with your neighbors. Get to know your neighbors. We need to love each other as brothers and sisters that we are. We need to quit letting people separate us and divide us by race, color, creed, and class. We are all human beings. We all have hearts, blood, limbs. We need to love each other like that and quit fighting amongst each other over petty differences. Our common bonding goal is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And with that, God bless America. And James, final thoughts yours, brother.
I had a really poignant afternoon today. I was with my father at the veterans home, and my dad was a World War II vet, and he served in the Navy. He was on the USS Natchez too, and that was a fueling oil can, and he was a radio operator on that. And when Dad started slipping, and that we knew it was going to be hard to get him help because he was a very intelligent man. He had made projects and parts for integral parts for our radar systems, and that. And when the Korean War stepped off, he was called back up as a reservist and that in the Navy, and he was manufacturing for a company in California a part called a helipot. And what a helipot is, it's a very fine variable resistor, and it is absolutely necessary for radar to have these helipots. And it was more important to the efforts back then for him to continue making these helipots for Beckman Instruments and that than to be deployed back over to Korea. And this man has he went into the Navy when he was 17 years old when World War II kicked off, and he gave to the country then. After that, he put his little brother through college and stuff. The guy has had an exemplary life. The piece of American hardware that has left our universe, he worked on. His fingerprints are on it. He touched the parts that are out of our universe. And to see him have to go into a nursing home and that was hard enough. But he did it and was able to go. And the first go rounds were with the nursing homes. They weren't a good outcome. They weren't a good They weren't a good place. But right now he's at the veterans home at Watkins Logan, just outside of Tyler. And the people there most of them are also veterans. And it seems that with that service to country also comes a respect of person and a service to person. He has gone from being victimized and being a pain in one nursing home's operation to being a valued member of another household. And to see him smile and to see him laugh today, I was totally blessed. And I want everybody to know that you can go to these veterans homes and you don't have to, you get with the social directors there and just go visit. Go see these people that have given so much so we could have so much. And then realize what our government is giving away to people that have no right to it, that have come across our borders illegally, that have infiltrated the United States and are trying to disrupt it and tear it down. That'll really give you pause to think. And I praise God that he has given us the opportunity to see my dad happy again. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight.
James, I appreciate you, brother. Mad love. God bless America. And we all need to look out for each other, love each other, and come together, man. And we're going to go off with my song that was sent to me by James, which is Pissed Off Rednecks. Thank you, everybody. And please join me again.
The hallmark of Jimmy Johnson's championships has been... rednecks like me. Hell no, I won't push one for English. Just as soon hang up the phone. If you want to serve in the Muslim church, go and take your ass back home. Get up and go to work if you're able. Instead of living off our dime, this carry a handout generation. This country dry. Yeah, I think it's time that we change some policy. This is coming from real America's son and pissed off rednecks.